All right. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Right. First and foremost, I want to say call Allah Yahweh, Bahasham Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. Let's all praise to the Most High in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Right. The video, I don't know how I'm going to title the video, so it might be different than what I'm about to say, but it's dealing with how two people should talk to each other when there's tension between you two, right? And y'all trying to find out what's going on and you're trying to solve the situation, but there's tension present, right? So there's something that you can say that can easily start an argument and it can go south, right? Whether it's for your brother, for your sister, for your friends, for your loved ones, like a father or a mother. A brother and sister would be included as well. So like, I got my work jacket on, so if you see paint on it, just know that that's where it's from. But a wife or a husband, a child, just depends on, how old the child is. But it's really how we all should talk to each other, right? When dealing with anything, right? Even when you're there's no tension in there, you still should talk to your brother like this, right? It's very important to do this, right? And I was just, pondering on it because myself, I submit to it, right? It's something I had to check myself on, and I was like, man, you know what I'm saying? There might be another brother or sister out there that might need this, you know what I'm saying? So we're gonna go ahead and get into it. And there's a bunch of different translations. So all right, Ephesians 4. Hold on. Share my screen. I have entirely too many tabs open. Okay. Ephesians 4, right? And 29 in the AMPC, right? So it says, let no foul or polluted language, nor evil word, nor unwholesome or worthless talk ever come out of your mouth, right? So when you're talking to your brother, especially when there's tension in there, you have to be very careful about what you're saying, right? Because one word can easily cause that tension to rise in the conversation, and then now he's irritated, so he might throw a shot back at you. Or if they do it to you, right? Say they're the first person to maybe throw a shot, call you outside your name, disrespectful, whatever have you. Make sure that you don't reciprocate that same energy, right? Don't let an evil word against your brother come out of your mouth because he did it to you, right? It says, no unwholesome or worthless talk ever come out of your mouth, but only such speech as is good and beneficial to the spiritual progress of others, right? So you want to make sure, especially when you're trying to handle a situation, you're trying to deal with a situation, that you want to talk in a way to where it really keeps that spirit of peace. You know what I'm saying? That way that you guys can spiritually progress. Now, again, sometimes it's good to just part ways. You know what I'm saying? So you might just have a peaceful conversation with a brother or with a sister that, you know what, the best thing we could do is just stay away from each other. You know what I'm saying? I love you and I want to keep the peace between each other. And I think it's best if we just, friends from a distance. You know what I'm saying? If you ever need me, I got you. And I'm assuming if I ever need you, you got me, right? It says, as fitting to the need and the occasion, that it might be a blessing and give grace, God's favor to those who hear it, right? Now, this also could be speaking about, when you're teaching, things of that nature. We're going to read in the AMP. It says, do not let unwholesome, foul, profane, worthless, vulgar words ever come out of your mouth, but only such speech as is good for building up others according to the need and occasion, so that it will be a blessing to those who hear you speak, right? Maybe you know what I'm saying, you teaching about the law, you teaching about salvation or something like that, and you might have somebody who's just hard-headed and throwing shots. Sometimes it's best for you to keep your composure, and eventually they'll come around, or they might submit or realize sometimes that they were wrong, right? Or when they go home, they might realize like it wasn't right for me to do that. You know what I'm saying? And then they might dwell on them, repenting, and then, who knows? Maybe God will water the seed in which you had planted, right? What translation is this in? AMP as well. James 1, 19 through 20 in the AMP. It says, understand this, my beloved brothers and sisters. Let everyone be quick to hear, be a careful, thoughtful listener, right? So when you're dealing with somebody and they're expressing how they feel in the situation, you have to understand that your feelings is not their feelings, right? Your point of view is not their point of view. Your understanding of something is not your understanding of something. That's why there's tension between y'all. That's why you guys are having this conversation, because you guys are both in disagreements, right? So make sure that you're a very thoughtful and careful listener when your brother, sister, or whoever, whatever have you, are talking, right? So that you can properly address what they talking about. That's why the scripture says you understand first and then you rebuke, right? And it says, and if you don't know the matter of something, put your hand over your mouth, meaning don't say nothing, right? So you want to make sure that you don't speak on something that you don't really know about, right? That's very important. And again, a lot of times when I rebuke myself and when I self-examine myself, it's a great lesson, right? So when I build precepts, maybe I ought to, make videos like this. That way we can further build each other up, and the same lessons I teach myself, I can teach them. Maybe I might just start doing it, right? But it says, be a careful and thoughtful listener. It says, slow to speak, a speaker of carefully chosen words, right? That is important when it's your turn to talk. Make sure that the words that you are going to say are very well thought of, right? What I mean, you want to make sure that you don't want to offend your brother or your sister. You want to make sure that you don't say nothing that might cause them to get irritated. And if you do, maybe you don't really know how to put it. Just make sure that hey, look, I don't mean this with no disrespect, right? And I'm not saying this because I think this, and that. I just don't know anywhere else to put it, right? And I hope that we can, have an understanding, or maybe you can reword it for me and ask me if that's what I'm talking about, right? To ease that tension, right? Blessed is the man that make peace between two brothers, right? Roughly paraphrasing. It says, slow to anger, patient, reflective, and forgiving, right? We have to be slow to anger with each other. Now you might get irritated with your brother, so what, right? But you shouldn't get irritated to where you speak ill on them, right? That you wish that they don't do well, or you might call him names, you know what I'm saying, or you might put him down, right? We don't want to do that, right? We don't want to, even when your brother he might be completely unaware of this, but you might have anger in your heart towards him, right? You can't be doing that, brother, man. Be patient with your brother. He might not know. He might be coming around. He might just do it unknowingly, right? I know that I had to get checked of something that I was doing unknowingly, right? But the brother who told me, he was slow to anger, right? He didn't, it's no big deal, bro. But when he brought it to me, I'm like, no, that's something that I do need to change. So just understand we got to be slow to anger, right? Especially when it comes to jealousy. Now, we shouldn't be jealous of each other. But jealousy also, it causes a lot of problems, right? But that's a whole nother topic. But make sure you be reflective and forgiving. Verse 20 says, for the resentful, deep-seated anger of a man does not produce the righteousness of God, that standard of behavior which he requires from us, right? The Most High told us to be slow to anger, right? He says, be angry, but don't sin, right? What this is speaking about is you being angry to where other people are feeling your anger, and it's causing them to feel offended, right? And it might cause them to be angry. So you want to make sure that you're very careful when you're angry, especially when you're angry and somebody wants to talk about something that you know for a fact you're gonna get pissed off even more, maybe it's best that you tell that brother, man, or that sister, hey, it's not the best time for me to talk right now. I do that all the time. I just stay quiet and I tell brothers I really don't want to talk right now, right? And that's what's best to do, because you don't want to lash out on a brother and say certain things that you don't necessarily mean or you don't want to say, right? Um, let's go to First Peter, right? First Peter 5. Well, yeah, we can get that. Not 56 through 7. Lord in Christ. First Peter 5, 6 through 7 in the AMP as well. It says, therefore, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, setting aside self-righteous pride, right? Watch this. You might think that you're obligated to correct somebody. You might think, oh, well, he's wrong, so I got to correct him. And you might be wrong. You might not even understand what that brother, is talking about or what he's doing or things of that nature. So you have to understand, setting aside your self-righteous pride, that you might be thinking of something that's not even there. You understand what I'm saying? So you got to humble yourself. And even when somebody has a high authority, they got to humble themselves as well, right? Don't thinking that, oh, I know this, and that, so I could walk around and nobody can correct me. That is the downfall of a man, right? Pride is the downfall of a man, right? We understand that the Most High ain't dealing with no prideful man, right? Confidence is different, right? Having confidence in the Lord and confidence in yourself that you want to strive to be perfect, right? You can have that confidence. That's different, right? But there's a fine line between confidence and pride, right? It says, so that he may exalt you to a place of honor in his service at the appropriate time, right? The Most High going to exalt you, right? So when you're dealing with your brother, make sure that you don't look at, if you have higher rank, or maybe you think that you know more than him, or maybe you think that, oh, well, he just thinks he's this, and that, so but he doesn't know. No, man, we can't look at each other like that, right? Put aside your self-righteous pride and deal with your brother like a brother, right? Every or sisters, Salaki, if you're a woman watching Salaki, but we really have to look at each other like, especially those who are older tend to look at those who are younger as those people with less experience, where they are not qualified to correct anybody, right? They're not qualified to be like, boom, you're wrong, right? That has to stop, right? We can't look at each other because you've been living here longer. You don't need to be corrected by somebody who's younger, right? That's why the scripture says, watch this. It says, no man despise right? 1 Timothy 4:12. It says, let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers in word, in conversation, in charity, in faith, and in purity. Right? Let's see what it says in a different translation. It says, don't let anyone think less of you because you are young. Be an example to all believers in what you say, in the way you live, in your love, your faith, and your purity. Right? So just because somebody is younger than you does not mean he don't know more than you. It doesn't mean that he can't correct you, and it doesn't mean that you have to submit when he tells you to be quiet, right? There was a younger brother who told me to be quiet, and I shut my mouth, right? Because I understand that he might be seeing something that I might not be seeing, right? He might be aware of something that I might not be aware of, and dealing with knowledge, right? We understand that knowledge puffeth up. That's in Corinthians 8:1. Let's see. Verse. Did I type in the wrong thing? Oh, it's like I seen the food sacrifice to idols, and I was like, what the hell? 1 Corinthians 8, when it says, now about food sacrificed to idols, we know that we all have knowledge concerning this. Knowledge alone makes people self-righteously arrogant, right? You thinking that you have, since you have more breakdowns than somebody else, that you're always right, and that you can just correct anybody on anything, right? I would consider I know a little bit, right? I wouldn't say I know a lot. But even I know that there's a lot of things that I can't correct somebody on because I don't know nothing about it, right? Um, can't correct somebody on how to be a grandparent because I'm not a grandparent, right? There's certain things for certain people, right? It says, but it says, but love that unselfishly seeks the best for others builds up and encourage others to grow in wisdom, right? So just because you have more knowledge than somebody, that's when it says, for knowledge puffeth up, right? Just because you have more knowledge than somebody doesn't mean that that brother is not right, right? So you have to look at your brother, even though he might not be as sharp as you, that's your brother, right? We understand that David got corrected by somebody who wasn't on the stature of David, right? The Bible says, learn from the ant that was sluggard, right? So if we can learn from an insect, we definitely can learn from a brother who doesn't have as much breakdowns as you, right? Which goes for everybody, right? I would be a soldier in SICARRI, but I would not put it past me that somebody who doesn't even believe in the Bible can't correct me. Somebody that wasn't even an Israelite corrected me before, right? Because correction can come from anybody. It says, verse 7, right? Now, verse 7 is not really dealing on the topic, but I found that it was a pretty good precept, right? So I kind of would like to share it with y'all. First Peter 5 and 7 in the AMP, it says, casting all your cares, all your anxieties, all your worries, and all your concerns once and for all on him, for he cares about you with deepest affection and watches over you very carefully, right? Now, again, this has nothing to do with the topic, but it's just a great precept, right? So when you feel like you're getting overwhelmed, make sure that you remember this precept, cast everything upon him, because that's what he's there for, right? Those who serve the Most High. Let's go to Proverbs 14 and 29 in the GNT. Right? So we have that we have to be very mindful of what somebody is saying, right? We have to take in consideration how they feel, where they're coming from, because one of the analogies that I like, if you're standing in front of a door and say you're 5 feet away from the door and you're standing directly in front of it, you're going to say there's nobody in the room because that's what you see. You see an empty room. But somebody who is standing right next to the hinge of a door, he can see more in the corners and places where you can't see, right? And he's saying there's somebody in the room, right? So if somebody's in the room and say it's a killer or whatever, you're like, we can go in there, it's safe, there's nobody in there. But he's like, no, there's somebody right there, right? So just understand that everybody has a different perspective, right? And just because you think that you're right doesn't mean that you're right, right? Because he's seeing something that you don't, right? So make sure that we are mindful of what people are seeing, what they feel, and how they understand things, and what they're talking about, right? Because how we really express ourselves is through our actions, our facial expressions, things of that nature, and how we treat each other, and our words, right? Words are very important. It says that the power of life and death are in the tongue, right? Being careful when you speak, right? Be very careful when you speak. Try not to offend that person and cause the tension to rise. It's very important not to do that. Be very slow to anger, right? Don't get mad at your brother because he might have said something that pissed you off, right? And a lot of the things that causes arguments to rise and causes arguments to come about is because of a misunderstanding, right? So don't get mad at your brother because of a misunderstanding. And now you have anger in your heart for somebody else when he's not even worried about you, right? He didn't even do that because of you, right? You just took it the wrong way. Being humble, right? Just because you know more, just because you're older, just because you're bigger and stronger, it doesn't matter. Anybody can receive correction. Everybody needs correction, right? Because that's what makes us a better person, a better man, a better woman, a better wife, a better husband, a better father, mother, and child of God, right? So that's where we're at right now, right? Proverbs 14:29 in the GNT, it says, if you stay calm, you are wise, right? Anybody that's plain and simple, right? There's a video, I won't go into that, but just understand when there's a lot going on and you see somebody that's with that tranquility of mind, you can understand that it doesn't matter that these people are acting out, he's keeping his cool. Now, if you put your hands on somebody and then he defends himself, that's different, right? But it says, but if you have if you have a hot temper, you only show how stupid you are, right? So if you have a hot temper and you just say things and you just talk, and you offend your brother and you just say things just because you're mad at him, right? That doesn't make you a better brother. It just really shows how stupid you are, right? You're not making any sense and you're just saying things that are false, right? But as for the brother who was calm and collective, he's showing how wise he is, that he's willing to think before he talks, and he's willing to have a peaceable mind, spirit, and voice towards you, but you are just being angry and belligerent towards him, right? So make sure that you talk to your brother as a brother because you are his brother and he is yours, right? Same thing for the sisters, right? Number 5. Ephesians 5:4, 2 through 3 in the AMPC. Ours. Nope. Yes. Ephesians 4:2-3 in the AMPC. It says, living as becomes you with complete lowliness of mind, humility, right? So you got to have humility, right? This is with talking to somebody or without talking to somebody. You have to have that lowliness of mind because that is how you actually see if you're wrong or not, right? If you don't have that lowliness of mind, you will never be able to fathom on what your brother is talking about. You're just going to think that your brother is just talking shit to you, when all actuality, he's really trying to genuinely correct you to because he wants to see you be a better person. It says, and meekness, unselfishness, gentleness, mildness, with patience, bearing with one another and making allowances because you love one another, right? You have to be patient with your brother, right? You have to understand, like, maybe my brother is right and I'm wrong. This is how you talk to each other, especially when tension is in the air, right? Now, when it comes time to things about salvation and you're proving your point, you don't have to think, oh, maybe he's right and I'm wrong, right? You proved your point, right? That's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about like certain instances of, you might offend somebody, right? Things of that nature, or just a regular conversation. Because you being calm, you taking very careful thought of their words and understanding what they're saying, you thinking before you talk, you being slow to anger is actually great techniques for a debate, right? It says, be eager and strive earnestly to guard and keep the harmony and oneness of and produced by the Spirit in the binding of power, in the binding power of peace, right? So you have to earnestly strive to guard that harmony of peace between you two, right? You have to earnestly strive to keep the peace, right, between you and your people. That is how we become the best people on earth, right? Is we become extremely harmonious and peace with each other, to where that we are so strong. Just like, now, I'm not calling our people apes, and I'll never call our people apes, but in Planet of the Apes, you have Caesar. He has a stick. He says, ape alone breaks a stick, and he said, we're weak. But then he grabs multiple sticks and he says apes together, he's trying to break it and it don't break, right? So when we keep that unity of peace with each other, we're unbreakable, right? This is how we were able to destroy any nation that stood in our path, because we loved each other, because we were listening to how God told us how to conduct with each other, right? So that's very important. One more. What translation? AMP. Ecclesiastes 7 through 9. Ecclesiastes 7, 8. We'll start at 8 through 9. It says, the end of a matter is better than the beginning. It says, patience of spirit is better than haughtiness of spirit, right? Pride. You being patient with your brother, right? Allowing him to fully get what he's talking off of his chest, right? Allow him to fully, explain himself. Now, me personally, I kind of say that there's three rules to interrupt your brother, right? It's when he has disrespected you, like, hey, bro, that's kind of disrespectful, bro. I appreciate it if you don't say that no more, right? So that he doesn't keep saying it and it keeps building up that anger within you. If you need clarity on something, right? Maybe he said something that's like, well, hold on, bro, I don't really understand what you're talking about, right? So that he doesn't keep talking or she doesn't keep talking, and you're just completely lost, right? Just depends on the situation. And what's the third one? Well, no, we won't say that one, right? But it says, don't be eager in your heart to be angry, for anger dwells in the heart of fools, right? There's one that I'm missing, right? Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, sir. That's what it was. Let me do this. Back. Was that 11? I don't always forget that. I'm just saying. I should have just trusted myself. After self. Track 11 and 8, or 11 and 8 in the GNT. It says, don't interrupt somebody, or don't interrupt while someone is speaking. Hear what he has to say before you answer, right? Important, right? Because you're understanding what they're talking about. Now, sometimes you do interrupt your brother, right? It's something that we have to work on, right? I fall short of it sometimes. I interrupt people sometimes when I tell them don't interrupt me. It's a learning thing, right? Nobody says that you're going to stop it right away and that you're never going to do it, right? Sometimes it is necessary to interrupt your brother. Maybe he's lying, right? Maybe he's saying, well, he said this and he said that. Yeah, and it's just lies on lies and lies and lies and lies. So, okay, when are we going to stop this, right? You're just lying at this point. It says, don't get into an argument over something that is none of your business. Don't take part in decisions that are being made by sinners, right? Let me tell you something. This really, some people really got to listen to this. Don't get into anything that ain't got nothing to do with you, right? What do I mean? Does that mean, you know what I'm saying? If you're in the council, you're in the conversation or things of that nature? No. But if it ain't got nothing to do with you, don't put yourself in that situation, right? If you're asked to be in that situation, that's different. But don't put yourself in that situation, because you don't know nothing from one side and you don't know nothing from the other side. So it's best that you don't say nothing on both sides, right? But that is that is my personal opinion, right? This is all my personal opinion. I think these are the best ways that, people can deal with each other without, what I'm saying, having the thing end in a serious argument and just a screaming match and just, cussing each other out, or maybe it leads to a fight. You know what I'm saying? I think that these are the things that are key for everybody to follow, right? Which would allow everybody to, really, gain that intelligence of what somebody else is talking about when it comes time to, counsels or conversations or understanding how they feel, things of that nature, right? So I hope y'all liked it. I hope that you know what I'm saying, you might have got some precepts. You might, learn something in this lesson, right? But I do want to say, call all Yahweh by Shema Mashiach Yahushai. If you like the video, like the video. If you found this video edifying, share it with somebody. Hell, steal the precepts and teach it to somebody. You know what I'm saying? All praise, because these are not my words. These are the words of the Most High. These are not my verses. These are words. These are verses of the Most High. You know what I'm saying? So we definitely want to, keep teaching this. You know what I'm saying? So we can all live peaceably with each other, right? But I do want to say, call Yahweh B'Shem Mashiach Yahushua. It's all praise to the Most High in the name of His only God Son. It was a pleasure to be at y'all service, man. And shalom, and be safe out here, and be slow to speak and quick to hear. All right, shalom, y'all.